And our guest on this segment is a member of the faculty here at Rogers State University, Dr. Susan Willis, who, by the way, is not only a professor on campus, but the dean of the School of Professional Studies. Dr. Willis, it's good to have you with us.
Thank you for having me today.
Did you ever think you'd be walking the streets and sidewalks in the middle of a pandemic with all the restrictions?
This has been the oddest second half of the semester. It's very strange and quiet on campus.
It is, and it's a very sad time. I think, like everybody else, we're all concerned. What's coming? Let's start, if you don't mind, with the summer class setup. What are we looking at for summer classes?
Well, in the School of Professional Studies, well, I guess campus-wide, actually, we are going to do everything just as we're doing it now with distance learning. For several years, we've had the majority of our classes in the School of Professional Studies online in summer anyway, with just a very few live classes. So it's probably more of a change for the School of Arts and Sciences than it is for us for summer.
So really, it should be virtually seamless.
Right. In our school, it shouldn't be too much trouble. Most everything is online.
I know you're the kind of person who plans ahead, except when it comes to new gutters on your house. We're doing this while you're at home, just at the time the fellows arrived to put new gutters on the house. Isn't that right?
That's right. That's right. So I ran next door to my neighbors.
So we're liable to hear occasional hammering.
There you go.
What about in-person classes in the fall? And I know for your reputation precedes you that you've always got plans way out in front. What's coming in the fall?
Well, the best we can plan, we'd like to pretty much go back to life as we know it, with the exception of maybe having to not have as many in the classrooms. I don't know if we'll end up planning for half the number or whatever. That's probably what the potential is, that if we are in live classes, that we will continue to social distance the best that we can, which may mean that we have to have a few more sections of classes.
What about masks?
We haven't been told yet, and I'm not sure, but it would not surprise me. I know that as we come back next week, just the staff, we've been told that unless we're in our office by ourselves, that we're supposed to have a mask on. So I wouldn't be a bit surprised if there's not a requirement for masks in the fall.
I've been really surprised at folk out in the community who aren't wearing masks and who aren't social distancing, if you will. And it's very scary to me that we could see, another spike in the numbers.
I think from what I hear and what I read, that there's a very real potential we'll have another spike in the fall, which may mean that we have to go into the fall semester anticipating that and doing what we can to prevent that up front, rather than have to make drastic changes like we did in the middle of this spring semester.
Well, let me share one bit of information with you, which is not related to our discussion, but it's probably the kind of thing you'd like to know about. I heard on the radio coming home a while ago that the British are apparently so close to a vaccine that they think they're going to try and release it to the public at the end of the month. And doctors here are saying they're not at all surprised. So it's kind of interesting to see how the announcement first and the reaction to it second. And I think everybody in the world got their fingers crossed. What about the fall goals? What do you have in mind?
Well, first of all, I think that we want to have our regular numbers and even increase in our numbers of students, which is always a goal of ours. But the reality is that people have been affected in so many ways, especially economically, and maybe parents that are unable to send the kids to school. Maybe most of our students work. The majority of our students work, and so they may have had trouble financially, or they may have trouble going back to work, depending on how this summer goes. And so I think our goal would be just to get back to normal, but I'm not sure that normal will be quite what it's always been, and it may take a while to recover with the economy.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what the new normal looks like. While we're on that, could you define and give us an idea of what we're talking about when we talk about professional studies?
Sure. The School of Professional Studies is the school that has, well, for instance, we have health sciences, we have business, we have technology, we have criminal justice, we have sport management. So many of those applied type fields and careers, many of those can end up in some type of professional certification, like in your health sciences. Many, and certain, like with accountants becoming CPAs, or with criminal justice people becoming certified police officers. So in professional studies, we have quite a variety of things, and we are by far the largest school. I think we've got about 2/3 of the students in our particular school.
Sounds like the sort of grouping, if you will, that would also bring in a lot of interns.
Yes, we have a situation in health sciences with our nursing program. There are clinicals required. We have our allied health, which is our physical therapy, pre-occupational therapy, and there's an internship involved there, field experience, business, technology, sport management, even our criminal justice that has our CLEAT training. Almost everybody has the opportunity, if not the requirement, to do an internship or a professional experience before they graduate.
Well,
That's a concern for us, because we don't know. The first thing that happened to us this spring was that the hospitals told our nursing students they couldn't come back after spring break. And so we had to move to a rather expensive virtual clinical software package for our nursing students to be able to complete their clinical hours this semester. So that was a good Band-Aid. We can't do that ongoing in the fall. We'll have to have opportunities for certain, well, the nursing in particular, to be trained clinically.
What, and I know that I don't mean this to be an unfair question, but what do you have in the way of tracking students after they graduate? Are you able to measure what field they end up in? Do they pursue what they're studying, or change?
We do our best. It's sometimes a challenge to get them to respond, but we do have postgraduate surveys that we send out, especially over the first 5 years, to determine where they are, what they're doing. It's a little easier in places like our nursing program, where there is a professional certification test, and we get those reports from the state as to who passed those exams and that type of thing. Now, it doesn't always tell us employment, but it does give us feedback on how well they do on their licensure exams.
Are you pleased with what you see?
Yes. Oh, very much so. We have a very fine reputation, and we just hope to continue that. We're doing a lot of new things. This is the first year for our traditional BSN program, so now our nursing students will have a bachelor's program rather than associates. So we're taking up the next step.
Well, that's great news. Well, one more area I want to discuss with you, and then I promise I'll let you get back to the new gutters. Has the growth inside the professional studies program, has it been a marked growth, or has it been just very steady and in increments? How does it work for you?
I would say it's pretty steady. I think the growth is in particular areas. For example, we started our first master's program, and we have an MBA now. And interestingly enough, we kind of had a little bit of growth, and then we kind of tapered off, and we moved that to an entirely online MBA to be competitive with those other programs out there, and saw an immediate jump. Same thing in our RN to BSN program, that they were down to like 6 students left last year. We moved that program totally online, and they had 50 in the fall, and in the spring that we have about 80. So we have tried to, even not knowing this was coming, we have tried to do things that make us more competitive, and part of that is putting more programs online, and it just turned out to be very timely now.
I got to tell you, I'm very envious of the fact that you have all these young minds coming in, and you're able to pour so much knowledge into those open minds and young minds and help shape them for the future. But at the same time, it's a responsibility I don't think I'd wish on anybody. Teaching's got to be one of the hardest professions out there.
It is. It's getting more and more competitive, and there's more of a demand, and that pendulum swings from more traditional to now workforce generation. What can we do to get people into jobs quickly? We've developed new programs to try to keep up with that. We have our drone technology that has really come up and has gotten very popular, and so we do our best to keep up, but there is a little more pressure on us in professional studies because there is so much keeping up that we have to do.
Well, you're doing a great job over there. And
Thank you.
Dr. Willis, I want to thank you for taking time to visit with us. And maybe down the road, we'd like to have you back if you're a mind to come with us.
I would love to. I'd always love to talk about our programs and our students.
Great. Thank you so very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
We're almost out of time on this end, but there's a couple of things I want to point out to you before I close out. Many years ago, there was a fellow named Ed Murrow, who was one of the founding fathers of the broadcast industry. Ed was in radio, the first part of his career. Later became kind of an anchor of television before we even knew what an anchor was. He had a saying every time he closed a program that I'm going to start to employ here, because it struck me the other night, is this would be a perfect time to bring back what he said. First of all, he made the prediction that if we don't use television to instruct and to educate, then it's nothing but a box of wires. Well, fortunately, at RSU Public Television, we're able to do just that. We can bring you instruction and education and information on a level that just is above and beyond what folks normally see. But when he closed out his broadcast, and he started this in radio, he always said one thing, and I'm going to say it today. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Good night. Good luck.